All right, let's talk about something you're almost guaranteed to see in a modern software engineering interview: microservices. By the end of this, you're going to have a really solid grasp on this so you can nail those questions. But, to really get what microservices are all about, we've got to go back to the beginning. We need to look at the why. So let's jump into the problem they were actually built to fix. And you'll see exactly why this huge shift in thinking was, well, so necessary. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll kick things off with the old way, the monolithic problem. Then we'll bring in microservices, see how they're structured, what their key features are, and how they talk to each other. And we'll wrap up with a final showdown to clear up some common confusion. Let's do it. All right, first up, the monolithic problem. Let's dig into let's call it the old school way of building software. Because once you really understand the pain points here, you'll totally get why microservices became such a game changer. Okay, so what's the core difference here? It's pretty simple, actually. We're going from one giant single application to a whole bunch of small, independent ones that just work together. The Lego brick analogy is perfect. Instead of one giant, unchangeable block, you have a bunch of small bricks you can swap out and build with. And this right here, this was the developer nightmare. Seriously. Think about it. One little bug in some forgotten corner of the code, bam, the whole application could go down. You wanted to change one line of text? Well, gotta redeploy the entire system, which was always risky. And the scaling? Oh man. If just one feature started getting a ton of traffic, you couldn't just scale that one piece. Nope. You had to scale everything, the whole massive application. Just a huge waste of money and resources. So you can see how this was becoming a huge problem, right? A total roadblock to moving fast. The industry was really crying out for a better approach. And that's where our hero comes in. Let's talk microservices. Now, the really important thing to get here is that it's not just about making services small. The magic words are loosely coupled and independently deployable. The idea is that each service is built around a specific business capability. It does one thing and it does it really well, without messing with any of the other services. Okay, but hold on. If you have all these little services running around everywhere, doesn't that just create chaos? How do they all work together? Well, that's where the core architecture comes in. There are a couple of key players that keep everything in order. So check this out. This shows you exactly how a request travels through the system. It's not a free-for-all. When a user sends a request, it doesn't just bounce around hoping to find the right place. Nope, it follows a very specific, controlled path, and each step has a really important job to do. Let's break down what those jobs are. All right, first up is the API gateway. The best way to think of this is like a receptionist or a bouncer for your entire system. It's the single front door. Every single request has to go through it. It handles things like security, logging, routing, basically all the boring stuff, so that the individual microservices don't have to. It figures out where the request needs to go and sends it on its way, keeping everything else clean and simple. Next up, service discovery. Now, this is absolutely critical, especially in the cloud. See, services are constantly starting, stopping, scaling up, scaling down. Their network addresses, their IP addresses are always changing. So how does one service find another? Well, that's what service discovery does. It's like a dynamic, always up-to-date phone book for all your services. So instead of hard-coding an address, a service just asks, hey, where's the payment service right now? And it gets the current live location. Super flexible. Okay, so we've seen the basic structure. Now let's get to the fun part, the why. What do you actually get from doing all this? Let's talk about the key features, or what I like to call their superpowers. And this is really the stuff that makes microservices so attractive. First, you get decentralization and autonomy. Each team can own their service, use their own database, even use a different programming language. One team could use Java, another could use Python, whatever is the best tool for that specific job. Then there's the black box idea. Services don't need to know how other services work on the inside. They just need to know how to talk to them. And maybe the biggest win of all, independent deployment. You can update and ship a change to one service without touching anything else. No more massive, risky deployments. Okay, so this next part is a really common interview question, and it's one that can separate someone who just knows the buzzwords from someone who actually gets it. How do all these independent services communicate with each other? There are basically two main styles, and this table breaks it down nicely. First, you have synchronous communication. Think of this like a phone call. You ask a question, and you literally wait on the line for an immediate response. This is great for things like a user interface, where you need data right now. Then you have asynchronous communication. This is more like sending a text message or an email. You send it, and you don't wait around for a reply. You just trust it'll be picked up and handled later. This is perfect for background jobs, like sending a confirmation email or processing a large report. All right, to wrap things up, let's tackle one last thing. This is a big point of confusion, and it definitely comes up in interviews. What is the difference between microservices and its predecessor, SOA, or service-oriented architecture? They sound kind of the same, but trust me, their core ideas are very, very different. Here's the absolute key takeaway. Their core philosophies are practically opposites. SOA was all about sharing. The goal was to build these big, reusable components that multiple applications could share. It was all about integration. Microservices, completely the opposite. The philosophy is to share as little as possible. The goal is total independence and decoupling. Avoid sharing to maximize autonomy. And that's the nuance right there. That's what an interviewer wants to hear. It's not about the technology you use, like a REST API. You can use that in both. The real difference is the principle. Is your goal to share and reuse components across the company? That's more like SOA. Is your goal to make each component as independent and decoupled as humanly possible? That's microservices. So let's end on this final question. We've talked about how powerful microservices are, but are they always the right choice? I mean, they're not a silver bullet. The complexity of managing all these different services can be a real headache. So the question I'll leave you with is this. With everything you now know, when is a simple monolith actually the better answer?